And it's oftentimes, and we're actually going to spend a fair amount of time talking about finances and money, because there's sort of the neutral aspects of currency and money. And oftentimes money can be a really loaded subject. And we can have a lot of subconscious beliefs around money and finances that may keep us from earning as much as we may deserve. And it may actually keep us from fulfilling the dreams that we want for our business. So part of the next couple of sessions is demystifying managing your resources, managing your money in a way that serves you. So we're going to show you some tools and tips, but we really are going to also be there to support you in adapting systems that's going to work for you. QuickBooks may be great for some of you. For others, you're happy with Excel spreadsheet or a pen and paper. It doesn't really matter. So we want to make sure that the system works for you so that you know where you are and you feel like you've got the resources that are necessary to grow your business if that's what you want to do. So with that, we're actually going to start out with putting you guys in small breakout rooms of 3, and it's just going to be it's just going to be students at first, but we'd like for you all to talk a little bit about your pricing for your in your business. So our question to you and to talk about with your group was, when was the last time that you considered raising your prices, and or what has kept you from looking at raising your prices? And if you haven't been long in business, that's or have started your business or decided on a pricing policy, that's fine. It's an opportunity from you to listen to your peers about what are some of the challenges in coming up with a pricing policy. And by that, I mean, what is it that you're charging your families? So we aren't going to be looking at CCAP rates or any of the subsidies yet. This is purely your tuition rates. So what you charge your families. So, and welcome, Khadija. Thanks for coming on. And so with that, Hannah, do you want to, and then we'll each be joining you after you guys have a chance to talk. So you'll have like 6 or 7 minutes just amongst the 3 of you. I'm not sure if we have 3s.
Hi, Angela.
Hi.
Sorry, I was late a few minutes.
That's fine. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Okay, so who wants to report out on what was talked about in our group?
I guess me.
Good.
Well, Bernadette and Bushra are really new at the licensed childcare thing. So I shared with them that in the beginning, when I was building my business again, I didn't raise my rates real where they should have been in the beginning, because I wanted to build up clientele when in reality it didn't work like that really. I feel like it helped, but I mostly got a lot of my CCAP spots filled, which is good too. And but then after that, you know, as children left to go to kindergarten, I started raising my rates every year, and I've done that since. And nothing stopped me from raising my rates, because I feel like, you know, we're Colorado Shines rated. We're in partnership with Head Start, and I just felt like, you know, we work very hard at what we do with the children. And so I'm just confident with the whole raising the rates.
And Bernice also mentioned she's got very firm policies around being late with, you know, and being on time. And it's much easier to ease off on rules than it is to institute rules after you've been in business for a while. So she learned the hard way about, you know, not being soft on parents and yet being consistent in our policies, which I think is a theme that came from the last cohort that we taught as well. So thank you. And so let's hear from another group. Any reporting out, any ahas or anything to share with the larger group that you learned? Who was facilitating a second group? Dawn? Who in your group can report out?
I'm gonna say Najla could do that, right?
So we discussed like the different rates, and Patricia, since she is pretty much experienced, like she did about 26 years her daycare, and initially she had quite low rates of about like 99 per week for infants. And then right now she's doing 265 per week, and she keeps her rates flat. She doesn't change it for infants and toddlers. And that's pretty cool. We learned a lot from her, and we were charging like 250 per week for infants, and Khadija was charging 225 per week for toddlers. We think Patricia's rate is a little higher because she lives in a different location than us. Probably that's just our guess. And we discussed the rates about potty training. So we will raise our rates when we are doing potty training, but we have included that in our policy handbook so the parents know it from day one. And yeah, I think that's pretty much what we discussed. And yeah, we also discussed the sibling discount. So what I do, I don't change my rate for infants and toddlers, but I do offer siblings discount. And as soon the sibling, like one of the sibling is gone to kindergarten, then the rate turns back to the standard rate. And yeah, I think that's all we discussed.
Well, and part of what we're going to talk about tonight is actually using data to help inform those norms or those average market rates so that you can feel more confident that you're charging a rate that is either not so far out of line with what your competition is or your peers are in your neighborhood, or really, really low, right? So we'll be able to, because that can help you with your confidence building in charging. So that's another part of what we're going to be talking about tonight, is actually looking at market rates. So that'll help you in setting your rates. Cool.
Yeah, great.
Dawn, were you going to say something else?
No, not yet. I'm gonna touch on that sibling discount, but I'll do that later.
Okay, good. So Dawn's going to be talking tonight as well about about on the revenue side. Okay, so who else? Sue, did you have a separate group? You were with Dawn. Okay.
Dawn and Najla and Khadija and Patricia.
Okay, so Elena and Hannah, is there someone from your group that would like to share?
I think Rosemarie had some really interesting ideas about, well, I don't want to take your ideas, but if you want to share on your ideas, Rosemarie, I think they were helpful.
I don't remember what my ideas were.
Oh, well, I think it was you who charges for new families, but not families who are already on board.
Oh, the rates. Yeah, I don't raise rates once they start with me. I put them at the higher end, and then, just just leave them there. New people coming in, that's when my rates would raise. Because it's just like when you rent a house or rent an apartment or something, and every year they raise your rent. That kind of used to get me upset. So if you already have them at a certain rate and you're happy with it, and you think, well, in 3-5 years, they're still at that rate, it's like at my infant rate, it stays, it's 250. And then, in 2 years, when they're 2 years, I can either leave them at that 250 or bring them down a little bit. So I didn't say that, but that just popped into my head.
Sure. I also liked your idea about under normal circumstances, having some higher rates for the types of activities that you do. You mentioned, you know, swim lessons and all these different field trips and things that the parents want their children to experience, you know, when they're with you during the day. So charging more for those when that is an option, I think.
Yeah, we sold our vans or traded it in because you figure it's going to be at least another year and a half before you can go on field trips with, you know, the group that you have, you know, 8 children, you know. We used to go to, when it was bad, the weather was bad, we used to go to McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or something, you know, and you're not even allowed in those anymore. So yeah, we figured in the van we only used for daycare. So yeah.
Yeah, so we get some good ideas to be creative though for, you know, maybe in the future again.
Yep.
Yeah, and you guys are touching on different, you know, different what we might call profit centers or different add-ons, whether it's potty training or take field trips or, you know, some different areas that you might be just offering for free or not charging for, even though you're incurring costs. That might be a possibility for you to begin charging for it. And it doesn't mean that you have to build that into your tuition, right? So we'll be looking at different ways that you can really maximize the revenues in a way that you feel really good about. So it has to mesh with your values. So we're not saying everyone should be doing this. We're not saying necessarily that you should or how much you should. But oftentimes I will say, I've been doing this for quite a long time and working with those in the caregiving and nurturing professions, is that it's oftentimes really, really hard to look at raising rates or asking for more money for what you're doing, because it's oftentimes a passion-based business and you care about your families and you develop relationships. And that can be hard to differentiate between personal and business. So keeping those boundaries really clear will actually help, not just help your business, but help your relationships with your families. That may or may not be true for you, but that's oftentimes the norm. So we're going to move into a presentation where we're going to talk about how to think about your business and revenue streams. John's going to give some information on market rates and using those data points so that you can really take a look at what you're charging and see if it fits within the norm. And then Dawn's going to give some information, more specific information from the childcare industry on revenue streams. So with that, I will share my screen. John, what are people seeing?
We're almost there. We're in editor view of your slides, not presenter view. And it's going, thinking. Come on. There we go.
All right, I can't see you, but I can see. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So last week we talked about changing your mindset around how you think about your business. And I'm a gardener, and I think in images and metaphors, and it helps me to be able to connect life experiences with my work in the small business arena. And I find that with entrepreneurs, thinking about your business as a garden, for example, can be helpful in developing a relationship with your business around nurturing it and nurturing yourself in the same way that you would in tending a garden. So I use this as a metaphor for thinking about revenues. And we've built out this model that we think might be helpful as you look at how you manage your resources. And we call it the circle of business, kind of like the circle of life. But if you think about, again, in sort of like a gardening model, what are the resources that you put into your business or your garden, for example? So, you put in things like your energy, your time, your professional development, all the training that you've taken. Those are all resources that really water the soil of your business, if you will. We put environment over on the left-hand side. So the home that you keep, its cleanliness, its cheerfulness, the paint that you decide to paint the walls because that makes the parents happy, it makes the kids happy, it makes you happy. All of those are things that oftentimes we don't think about as resources that we put into our business. We just think about our investments, the money that we take in. But I really want you all to think about resources in a broader scheme. So the amount of time that you spend thinking about your business, or the dedication that you have to improving the quality of your childcare offerings, which, is both your own personal values around offering a high quality experience for your families, but it's also institutionalized through the Colorado Shines rating systems. But the main thing that I want you all to keep in mind and to not forget is that you're at the center of this. And so when we're talking about resources, you are the most important resource available to your business. And if you're depriving yourself of nutrition, of downtime, of whatever it is that refills your tank, then you're going to see that evidenced in the outcome of your business, right? So if you're running on empty, and that's I oftentimes think of the gas tank, if you're running on fumes, you don't have a lot left over for working on your business. You're busy working in your business, which of course you need to be doing, but we also want to encourage you to view yourself as the most important resource that you take care of first. Again, the overused metaphor, the oxygen mask dropping down on the airplane, is tending yourself first so that you could be thinking about ways to maximize revenues. Obviously, you're the tuition and the subsidies, and by subsidies we mean CCAT, food program, Head Start, Colorado preschool program. All of those are more common ways of thinking about resources and revenues, but we also don't want you to be forgetting about these other ways in which you're nurturing and watering the soil of your business. So here is just another way of looking at these different sources of revenues for your business. And then you're going to hear me talk a lot about the leaky bucket. And so many times entrepreneurs, necessarily so, will think about, how can I get more money in? How can I charge more? How can I take advantage of subsidies? I need more percentage of slots filled. All of that, of course, is important. And that's the flow into your business. But there's also a piece that we're going to be talking about, which is making sure that you're addressing the leaks, the revenue leaks in your business, because that's obviously taking away from your bottom line. So some leaks might be unfulfilled slots, for example, or unfilled slots, sorry. It could be that with just a tiny bit of extra effort on your part, you could go from a 2-star to a 3-star rating. That would be considered a leak because it's just sitting on the table waiting for you to take advantage of the opportunity on the quality rating side. There's grants that are available. That's a possible, leak. It's available. It would take a little bit of effort to fill out the application, but that would be a way in which you could maximize the revenues coming in. And the more obvious ones, which we'll be getting into at the latter part of the class, are the taxes that you pay, which is on the expense side, but we think of it as a revenue leak because there are ways in which you can minimize the taxes that you pay by just thinking about the way in which you're using your space and and we'll be talking about the space-time calculation. So leaks are really easy ways, or relatively easy ways, that you can stem the outflow of revenues in a way that you can really keep more in the bucket, right? So keep more of the hard money that you're earning. So I can't see you, John, but this is your part. So do you want to take over here and I'll just move slides along?
Yeah, we can do that. Do we want to take any questions as a little interim here?
Yeah, let me stop share.
Okay.
And still can't see you guys. There we go. Okay, so did that resonate with you guys, especially the piece around nourishing yourself as the center of your business? Is that hard to do? Is that challenging for you to think about bringing in more money into your business as a, I don't know, is that second nature to you guys? Like, what was your reaction to thinking about your business as something that you want to tend and nurture, just like the little kiddos that you take care of?
Yeah, I think it's a hard thing on me myself, because like you mentioned, you build a relationship with the parents, and it's not a big number. So there's only a few parents that you build a relationship over the years, and it's not easy to change it at once. And even if you give, of course, it's a good idea to give a notice in October and say that you're gonna raise the fee in January. That's fair. But I think it's a better idea to start to think, I mean, at the beginning, but if you do it over the years, of course, and keep one price with one family until they're out of your service. But I really don't like the idea that I started to begin with, to charge more for infants, and when they're 2 years old, you drop it down from 1,000 to 800, and you're like, oh my God, it only gets harder. They're a toddler, they run around, they bite, they push, they do all kinds of things, and I'm getting less. It's just, if anyone asks for my advice, I would say start flat, keep it like that, and see how things go, how the economy is, how prices are. Just take it from there, but never raise it. Have a flat fee for toddlers and infants and how they begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So what would the revenue leak be in charging like what would you be addressing in a flat rate? Like
for age groups, different age groups, one flat rate. So when they're infants, they start with you when they're 3 months old, and you charge $250. I used to change it when they're 24 months old. It drops $200 a month. On my side, it was a good news for the parents because they still got the same care with the same family and all that. But on my side, it was like, what I was thinking when I came up with that idea. So I think you should keep it the same. And then I know providers that they charge $50 a year for supplies. I've never done it, but I think it's fair. For them, it's not a big deal, $50. And for you, if you have 5 kids in your care, you get $250, and it's more than you really do spend on Play-Doh and paper and markers. But instead of asking for fee, I ask my parents to donate markers, Play-Dohs. Like they go to a garage sale, they see a bunch of like construction papers for $2. They can just get it and bring it. They feel good, and I like it. I don't have to run to Walmart to grab that. So I think it's fair. They get it when they want it. They get it when it's a reasonable price. They have unused papers at home, they can bring it. So I think it's fair. It's not, and
Yeah.
they don't have to. They don't have to if they don't want to.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, I think one of the things to think about is time. So when you're thinking about your pricing structure and potentially moving to a flat rate, so one of the advantages, and Dawn will get into this in much more detail in her section, but it's the management. So if you're thinking about the time that you put into managing your business, an advantage to a flat rate is it's simple to administer, it's predictable, you know what your income is going to be. You know, there's some disadvantages to it too, which we can talk about. But really, again, going back to that image of all of the resources, one of which is your time. So any change that you make, you want to be thinking about, okay, what is this going to cost me in stress, in, you know, and to manage this program or manage this variable rate structure, is it going to be worth it? It might be, but it's just something to keep in mind, and always be thinking about the time that you're spending on your business, because that's a resource. Anybody else have any input or comments?
I just want to know, like, in Adams County or maybe in Thornton, like, I want to know more about the rates in different locations
Mm-hmm.
to find out if my rate is okay, or yeah, if it's, that would be helpful if people from the Adams
Share their rates.
share their rates.
Awesome. Well, cue John. So he's gonna.
Yeah, what a segue.
Yeah, perfect
That was
segue.
great. Bump and spike. All right, let me see if I can share a screen here, and we'll take a look at some rates. And this will be a good first look. It won't be necessarily all of the research that you want to do, but it will certainly help. All right. Are we seeing a gray screen that says a glance?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so thank you, Najla, for that segue. We're going to take a look at some of the prices with the childcare in our region. And how do I advance the slide here? Bam. Okay. Everybody gets a little bit different reaction when we start talking about numbers and money. And so I put a little disclaimer on here that is, hey, these are just numbers. And this is just some research that I've done. Let's try to look at these numbers and just treat them as numbers, not get emotional. And remember as well that maybe there are other numbers that you'll need to go and research to get your own picture of exactly how you want to price your service. I'm going to try to explain exactly the source of the numbers that I'm giving you. And you should also be thinking about, okay, he's explaining the source. How accurate is this measurement? You know, with anything that you read on the news or anything that you read on the internet, you should always be thinking, all right, I understand what they're saying, but how accurate is this? Where might there be some variation? How old is this information? And so forth. So I'm going to do my best, and we'll see what we see. Great. We're also going to mention several times in this presentation this idea of an average price of something. And so I just wanted to make sure that when I say that, we don't get confused, because sometimes in English we say average when we mean that something is like mediocre or not very good. But when we're using average price, what we're saying is, okay, we're going to add up all the different prices that people are charging in a given area. And then we're going to divide that by the number of numbers that we added up. So for example, if we were saying, well, what's the average height of people in our class? We would add up all the different heights of everyone, and we would divide that by the number of people in class, and we would get an average height. And we might come up with 5 feet 8 inches is the average height. It doesn't mean that that's a good height. It doesn't mean that anybody even is exactly 5 feet 8 inches. It's just a way of talking about the average of something. Okay. Another thing that I want to mention is that when we're talking about prices, um, everything that is charged a price for. So different businesses, different commodities, different services, price is something that is very fluid. And sometimes prices go up, sometimes prices go down over time. They also change over a geographic region. And a good example to help maybe think about this concept is gasoline prices. So this map I pulled up from Google, just looking at what's the price of a gallon of gasoline in the North Metro area. And so you can see, wow, there's several dozen gas stations on this map, and very few of them are charging the same price, even though it's the same product, 1 gallon of gasoline. And in fact, at the bottom of the screen, I highlighted two. There's one gas station that's charging $2.39 per gallon. There's another gas station just 2 miles away that's charging $1.74 for a gallon of gas. Same gallon of gas, your car can still go 30 miles on that gallon of gas, but it turns out that the one is 37% more expensive than the other. And I think that's interesting, when we start thinking about pricing our services. So I'm going to pause for just a second before I show you some numbers and put two ideas in your head, two questions. One question is, obviously these gas stations are doing business. They're not going out of business. And so why would a customer be happy to pay 37% more for a gallon of gas at one place instead of always going to the lowest price? Well, obviously there's more than just price when people are making their buying choices. And so you can think about, what does go into that? And then of course, a gallon of gas is not the same as a childcare provider, right? There are some ways in which choosing a gas station might be similar to choosing a child care provider, in terms of, for instance, you wouldn't want to go all the way across the city to get a gallon of gas. You wouldn't want to go all the way across the city to find childcare. But of course, there are many ways in which that childcare decision is much more important and more deliberate than gas station. So I'll pause for just a second. Any questions so far? Any comments? All right, that's the awkward Zoom pause. So let's move to the next slide then. Okay, so looking at some data, this is a little section of Colorado, and I pulled this section. Hi. So I pulled this section out so that it shows the key in the top left. So really, of course, in this class, we don't care about what's going on in Moffat County and Rio Blanco, but different counties in Colorado have different cost of living index. And most of us in this class are in Adams County. Maybe there are some of you that are in Broomfield, Denver County, or even Jeffco, but we're all sort of in this Metro Denver area. And you can see on the left side of the screen that some counties in Colorado have a very high cost of living. Most of us are going to be in the either high to mid category. And then of course, there are some areas in Colorado where things are much less expensive. And this cost of living applies to childcare, but it applies to other things as well. Rents, real estate, food prices, gasoline, and so forth. So it's good to remember that, hey, we're in the middle to the high end of cost of living when we're looking at the price of our services. So this slide shows some real numbers. And I mentioned about always trying to figure out what's the source of the data and how accurate is the data. So this slide pulls information from a survey that was done in 2017. So it's a few years old. Prices tend to go up over time and not down in most things. There's always a little bit of inflation. So we should take that with a grain of salt. But this Colorado Early Childhood Workforce Survey was done. They sampled a huge number of childcare centers and then only a small number of home providers. So for this slide, I ignored the center data and I went just to the 86 family childcare providers that were involved in this survey. and I pulled, I disregarded the lower and very low cost of living areas. And so I just pulled the middle, the high, and the very high data so we could take a look at it. And basically, you can see in this survey, they broke it down very, very specifically by age range and what people are paying. And it turns out that the average is about $200 per week, according to this survey. So again, this is 2017. Again, this is only 86 family home providers. So not a very comprehensive survey, but it starts to give you a look that, you know, in your county, you're probably in this high area. And yeah, some people are charging up to 223 in the survey. Some folks were charging in the 170s, so pretty low. I wanted to take a look at another source of data because, again, every measurement, we want to try to get maybe some more information. And care.com is a website that you might be familiar with. And people can search for childcare providers on care.com. Some of you mentioned that you have ads and listings on care.com. And on that website, they also have a calculator where you can pull up your zip code and the age of the child that you're looking for care for, and they will give you what is the average in your region. There's a lot of data on this slide, so I'm gonna just skip to the next one where I've made it a little bit more presentable. So looking at a sample of zip codes for our class, here's the main breakdown. Full-time infant care. We know that centers are more expensive than home providers virtually all the time. So care.com specifies that you should take about 20% below the market average if you're looking at what would be a home provider average. So for full-time infant care in our course zip codes, we're looking at about 240 per week as what people are charging. Again, source care.com. And as some of you have indicated in the breakout rooms and before, there does seem to be a slide in prices as the children age. Tends to be that providers are charging a little bit less per week to care for those children. So 240 for infants. By the time the child is pre-K, the average is 205 per week. If we're looking at home providers in zip codes represented by this class. So what does that mean to you? Well, you have to decide that, right? The data means, again, if it's an average, it means that, wow, there were a whole bunch of providers sampled, 86 in the first case, an unknown number in the care.com sample, but we would guess quite a few home providers were surveyed. Some customers are willing to pay the amounts that we looked at. Some are paying much more, some are paying much less in order to make that average. And that means, of course, that some providers are charging more and charging less. So some questions to think about with this information is, does it match your experience? Does it ring true? Many of you have been in business quite a long time, and so you probably have your own ideas about what you're charging, and you may be happy to be above average or at average, perhaps below average, although with experience, it tends to be that we might be able to charge more. Another question is, of course, do you charge more or less than you could or should? And how could you find out more about what others are charging in your area? And if you want to charge more, how could you make that value to your customers, to your parents? And how would you go about charging more if you decide that that's right for you? So hopefully this information is helpful. And let me see, I think this might be my last slide. So I'm going to stop sharing screen and we can take some questions about this information. Any thoughts? Those numbers seem right, seem wrong?
Not the case here, because what we're advocating is market research. And looking at what other people charge is the very basic fundamentals of a component of market research. And every business should be doing this So it can be looking at, and it's part of your homework actually this week, is to go on some different websites, look at what other providers are doing and learn from what the successful providers are doing. And it's imitation is the purest form of flattery, right? But it's gathering data and information so that you can feel comfortable with what you're doing. There's nothing wrong with doing it. And so we'd really encourage you to be bold in that front. So just to add that.
Okay. So now it's my turn. I'm going to talk you through some of this, and you guys are pretty good spoilers, I think, because last time I went into all this and everyone's like, whoa, but you've all touched on this. So that's great. Like you've got a lot of this figured out, which is wonderful.
You know what, can I say something too?
Uh-huh.
Is I have found that there's different groups of people. You know, you have the person or the people that take this as a profession, who take pride in it. Then you have daycare providers that do it for the money. And, you know, and they don't care about the families. They just want the money. I don't want to say be careful, but watch the group that you're with. Because if they're putting down the parents, if they think that licensing is a joke, if this isn't right, that's not right, you may start thinking about them, about the same way as them. So always try to be more professional, I want to say. I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to tell you.
I think that's a great point, Rosemary, right? You have to protect your professional identity too, right? And just like we tell our teenagers, right? You're judged by who you keep company with.
There you go. There you go. Yes, that's it.
and it is easy to slip into negative behaviors yourself if you're surrounded by a bunch of people who are on Facebook and complaining and throwing fits and, you know, grumbling about families and stuff. And those people don't frequently step back and think like, what does this look like to anyone out there in the community, right? So I do think it's a good thing to consider. Okay, so let's talk about your rates and what you charge a little bit more. First, I love this picture because I think of your business as something that you get to determine, like what path are you going to take? Which direction are you going to go? You have lots of options in your business model, and you can, at any point in the entire span of years that you're doing childcare, can completely change your model. If you find something's not working for you, change it, right? I stopped doing childcare because a licensing position came open and I did that. But right before that, I was going to change my entire model to work only with teachers' kids, right? So that way I could be off on the summers with my kids and it could bring some benefit to my family that way. So you have that flexibility to make those choices if you want to, if something fits your family better. Prop EE, just if you didn't watch the whole election thing, Proposition EE did pass. And so that means in 2023, Najla's like, yay. So in 2023, we're gonna have universal preschool paid for every 4-year-old, 10 hours a week guaranteed at a minimum, okay? So that's a pretty big change in our industry, and there are a lot of things that are going to come from that. But that also presents an opportunity for people if you're interested. Okay, come on, change. There we go. Okay, so this week and next week, we're going to talk about some of your sources of revenue. Today, we're pretty much going to stay on your rates, but we'll talk about time, space percentage, and enrollment. Grants as a source of revenue, federal and state programs that are available, and then your quality rating and credential and what those mean for you financially. Rates, it's important that you have your right rate, the right time space percentage, and we'll get into that for anyone that's unfamiliar for. and that you have the right benefits too. So you guys have been talking a lot about tuition tonight, and that's terrific. This is kind of the standard way that a lot of people historically have done tuition, where they've had, like you've said, that higher rate as an infant. So this $11,700 would equal about $225 a week. And then when the child turned 2, they drop it down to $11,115 a year, which is more like $213.75 a week. Instead, by setting a rate and maintaining that rate for the duration of the time that the child is in care, you end up having a different rate, so $11,440 a year. So really, between these two models that you have here, comparing the two, that top one where you change the age, you're going to end up over the span of that child's lifetime in your home, you're going to make $67,860 per child by adjusting your rates and doing it that way. Now, if you do the set fee, which really $220 a week, that puts you right in the middle of that 225 and 213, right? So you're right in the middle, but you're keeping a stable rate. You end up making $68,640 instead, which is actually, in the time period that a child is in your care, in your home, it's an increase of $780 per child. And if you multiply that out by 6 for the number of children in care, that means in that 5-year period, you have an increase in your revenue of $4,680. So that's a pretty great way to make sure that you're holding on to money, because the reality is, if your rates are off, you're burning money. And so that's slide 8, so I'm going to stop sharing there. But I do want to talk to you about this sibling discount, because that kind of got me thinking, right? When you go to the grocery store and buy groceries, do they charge you less for food for the siblings? Silly question, right? But I want you to think about it that way. Now, there are times when you might need to do something like that, kind of as a loss leader, right? A loss leader is something like in the grocery store where they charge you less for milk so that you come into the store and then you buy other stuff, right? It may be the thing that hooks a family to come be with you because you offer a sibling discount. But I want to, if you feel like you have to do that, then you absolutely can. But there are other ways you could do it, right? As a sibling discount, I give 1 week of free tuition for the second child. That would be $200, right? Instead of $25 a week, which is $1,300 a year that you're giving up just because they're bringing a second child to your home. So by better serving that one family, you're actually taking a loss to serve them better, right? Because they have one stop. They come to your house and they can drop off both kids instead of just one. I mean, you're making their lives easier and all of that. And so I just want you to think about like all of those different types of approaches, and really look at the finances behind them and what that can mean. And maybe there is a better way to offer a discount or something to kind of be a hook to encourage people to come and place their children with you. The other reality is, like, if you call centers in your neighborhood, find out what they charge, okay, for the child's age, right, for an infant, but what do they charge for a 4-year-old? So if they've dropped because that's where this model came from, centers are doing this. They charge more for infants and then they drop their rates down, right? So call and find out what their lowest rate is that they charge. And if you're below that, you're already very highly competitive there, right? Do you guys know a lot of homes that have a lot of vacancies?
Yes.
Right now with COVID, maybe. Sue's like, yes. For the most part, there hasn't been until we hit this COVID wall, right? This wave of things that are happening. So you do have to pay really close attention to what's happening. But as providers start to fill again, as COVID, please, COVID, go away as this whole thing subsides and normal is allowed to return, then you're going to see programs fill up again, right? And then it's very, very competitive as far as like getting kids into your home, right? So that enables you to have that higher rate.
I just wanted
can I
to add
continue?
on one thing.
Yep.
Sibling, like the easiest thing for one family to have more kids is then you don't have to deal like with so many parents. And it's, oh my God, it's like, it's a
Right.
lot of work to deal with lots of families.
It is. And that's true. And I agree because it's harder to take care of the parents than the kids, right? They're the hard part of the job.
Exactly.
But-
And yeah, so that makes
But
it
Najla, do you
they
think
pick
that
it up the same time. They pick it up the same time, and you're like, oh my God, I'm done for the day.
okay, but are you do you think they wouldn't be in your care if you didn't have that sibling discount?
I feel so bad that you mentioned this, and I regret that.
No, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not trying to call you out or anything. Right?
No. I feel like I could have done the other option that you mentioned. Like,
Okay.
can give you like 2 weeks of discount for the sibling, and then keeping.
And here's the beauty, right? You can
Yeah,
do
I never
that
thought about that.
another time.
Yeah,
Right?
I like that
So-
idea too, instead of the sibling
Yes.
discount.
Yeah.
I
So
really
it's
like.
So,
just
Is
thinking
that
of
one,
creative
is
options.
that 1 week for one child or 1
Yeah.
week for both children? That
You
you
can
give-
go
it
however, like
for
even
two,
for the
right?
both, that still is a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Look,
It's
if
true.
the difference is $25 a week, that's $1,300 a year that you're losing out on. So whatever you decide to offer it in a way that sounds really appealing for a parent. Offer it in a month. Like if you put that in December, they're going to go, I love you so much, right? Because December is a stressful month because people are paying for presents and all of these different
Yeah.
things, right? So just think of like, how does it benefit? How can I package this so that it seems really appealing to a parent and seems like a great benefit to them, but it also remains a great benefit to me?
Yeah, Dawn, like this is something we can't fix it with the current parents, but this is something we can fix it for the new like
Absolutely.
division. Yeah.
And just so you
Absolutely.
remember,
And-
nothing's broken at all.
No.
You can all do whatever you want and whatever
Yeah.
works for you. And so what you're doing now is fine. These are just ideas for you to think about. So don't think
Yeah.
that you should be doing something different right now. It's just ideas that
Right.
Dawn's sharing with you.
But if you have the opportunity to keep another get another $1,000 in your pocket, I could do a lot with $1,000, right? so I just want you to think about like all the different things and ways that you do things, and little tweaks like that can really be it. Look, you guys, this is the kind of stuff that we can sit down like in a consultation. We can sit down and talk. Like you know, Angela pointed out today in a meeting, you don't have to have specific questions to come to a consultation. You can just come and we can sit down and I'll ask, like, how's it going with your business? And what parts do you like? And what do you find challenging? And we can talk about financial stuff, or we can talk about behavioral stuff, whatever. Like, I'm there to support you, to be a sounding board, and to kind of help. I'm going to ask you some challenging questions, and I'm going to ask you to reframe things sometimes and think about things a little bit different, because if there's an area where you feel stuck, it helps to have someone ask some challenging questions, and then we'll have a conversation about it. And so I just encourage you like to sign up for that, and we'll kind of walk through things. I also wanted to let you know, like, I know what it's like to be in a business. And right now, as we speak, I'm starting a new business. And so I just got my license number reactivated, and I'm going to be opening a sub-care agency to do substitute care for childcare homes.
Oh my gosh, that's just
I
what we
love
need.
that. Put my name there, Dawn. Put my name. I'm always in need of some.
Oh, see, and I know what that's like, because I know for me, sanity was being able to take every other Wednesday morning off and go have an ice cream cone in the park by myself or whatever I
Yeah,
needed to
Dawn.
do.
But you know what? The Denver. I mean, I used to work for Goddard School, and
Uh-huh.
we had there was a sub agency, and I got the information from them. And when I contacted to have a sub come to my house so I can go to a doctor appointment, they said we have like insurance and all that, but not for home childcare, because then your home, we have to insure them to come to your house, not to a center. So we cannot send it to your house. We just send it to. So I was like, what should a home provider do? And you can't just keep asking them to take days off and then put things on hold. And
they
so
changed
this is-
the
yes.
policies so that you had to do all these different trainings
Oh
with your
gosh, yes,
substitutes,
yes.
right? So yeah, and really I understand, because you guys, I was there. So that's really, so I'm in the middle of it right now too. Now that my number's kind of activated, I'm like,
I'm
oh,
gonna
what
keep
have
your
I
number.
done? You
I'm
know?
gonna keep your number because then I have to share your
So
company's
I'm
name
not
and
trying to
information.
get customers out of this. That's
No,
great.
no,
I
that's
can
a
help you.
big
That's
need.
wonderful.
That's a big need.
But I'm really just sharing that with you to say, like, and I'm going to be going through this same process too, as I think about my business, right? What's the best way to do all of this? What's appealing to my customer? How do I modify it so that it definitely benefits my customer, but benefits myself as well? I'm asking those questions of myself every single day. So it's fun
That's
to be along
awesome.
the journey with you guys, though, doing this. So
That's awesome.
I'm
But after hearing all those sibling discounts and rates and how to start, I'm like, I if I could just let all the parents go and I start all over with all these with all these smart ideas.
Well,
Because
and
now I
here's the
have to
thing.
wait another.
From the last cohort, I was working with a person, she never changed her rates in 7 years.
Oh, wow.
And so she and I did a consultation a week ago and sat down, and we built a PowerPoint together, because she's like, I can't look at them when I tell them this, I'll be nervous, right? So I helped her build a PowerPoint, and she built out this whole presentation, and she's telling her parents that she's raising her rates effective January for all of them.
Yeah, this is a good
why
idea. I
she's
like
doing
that. To let them know in November or October for the
Yeah.
following year.
So it is a possibility for you to still make changes, even with your existing families. If it's right for you and it's something you need to do for your business, then don't say I can't do it for 5 years till this child's gone, right? Because the key is you need to stay in business. Like, we
Yeah.
need you guys around more than ever. They're talking about maybe 36% of childcare programs could potentially go under with COVID and close permanently. 36%.
So that's centers, not home, right? Or
That's
both.
childcare programs, licensed programs. So yeah, that's pretty intense. So
Why is that, Dawn?
because the financial pressure that's happening, and some of the homes are having to close for just over and over again for quarantines and stuff, right? And they're losing so much revenue that it doesn't feel like a stable form of income anymore. And so some of them are like, you know what, I'm tired of this risk and I'm gonna go do something else. It's pretty scary.
And can
So-
I ask?
Like Sue at ACPAC, they had their grant that they just offered for everyone, right? if you can get access to grants, like we talked about last week. How many of you went and talked to John about grants in Thornton? But do
And I
count
think,
your
Dawn,
blessings.
I think it's important to emphasize that the grants are, stopgap funding. What we're really wanting to put our emphasis on is building the business infrastructure and your understanding of pricing that's ongoing and foundational, and that will survive the coronaviruses and the fires and the floods, so that you have a predictable flow of income to the extent that's reasonable, and that you really understand from the cost side. So for example, and Najla, it is a great example, the sibling discount, because it brings up a couple of things that we talked about earlier. The cost to you of taking care of those kiddos is really, you invest the same amount of time and effort in 2 kids. But one thing I want to emphasize that I think is really important is there's a value to having to deal with only one family. And I don't want to miss that, because that's time, that's your emotional and mental energy, and there's a price to that. So yes, it's just, it costs just as much for you to take care of 2 kids on one side, but then to only have to deal with one family, to be able to quantify that is really important for you guys. So this week, what we're wanting you to do is, first of all, start out with that average for your zip code. We'll put in the, we'll make these tables available to you just as a starting point. Go up, go down. Like if you're in a zip code where it's fairly affluent, tack on $10 a week if you want to. Just play with these numbers and come up with something that you feel really comfortable. This is an art form. Pricing, it's the most common question we get from entrepreneurs. What do I charge for this pound of roasted coffee? What do I charge for this photograph? What do I charge for? Like, there's no right way of doing it, but there is data that can help you feel more confident in saying, I'm charging this and this is why. So these are these one-on-one conversations with Dawn, where you bring your special situation to the table and see if there's room for you to increase, or for those of you who are just starting out, you're hearing it's better to start in a place you feel really comfortable with that might feel a little bit high than, to start low and then have to be increasing your rates every 6 months.
There was one other consultation I had done last time around, right? And so, and she told me, well, my monthly rate is, and so then I took that information with the calculator, added it up and said, okay, so this is how much money you're losing a year. And she goes, no, I charge monthly. It's all good. And I said, but you're thinking there's 4 weeks in a month, right? And in reality, there are 4.333 weeks in a month. And when you add up all those 0.333s, it ended up costing her a lot of money. And she's like, holy cow, I need to change this to a weekly rate, right? So just another example.
Yeah. So you guys are doing awesome. I think this is the starting point for getting more onto the kind of the analytical side of setting up and growing your business in a way that you feel confident in. So it's incremental steps and starts with some research. So we are asking you guys to go around, look at John's tables, book a session with Dawn, or just email her some questions. It can be 15 minutes that you have a session with her. It's free. Or email one of us and just start playing around with some of those numbers and do the math, right? Because next week we'll be looking at other forms of revenue. Tuition is just one. What you charge parents is just one form. There's a lot of different areas of income that we want to make sure you're plugging those leaks and you're taking advantage of what you're offering. We oftentimes underestimate and undervalue those services. So, Dawn, do you have anything more to add, or are there any, we've got 2 homework assignments and a quiz. John and Hannah, do you, first Dawn, I'll let you close out, and then John, do you want to talk about what we've got in store for them this next week?
I just think next week we'll talk some more about the rest of those things that were on this slide, the time space percentage and the programs that you can potentially tap into in the state. So we'll talk about all of those other things that flow into the bucket potentially, right? And you can consider them and see. So bring your questions, bring your thoughts about those, and we'll see how they stand up in our conversation.
John?
Very good, very good. On the course website, it looks like everybody has had some good success logging in and finding the resources on there. If you do have any trouble, then please let us know. Send an email and we can always reset your password if you lose that or if you changed it or anything like so. But this week you will find, all kinds of goodies. We have a few things to read. The care.com calculator link is on there, so you can type in your own zip code and see what that tool is pulling up. If you really want to get into the weeds, I put that entire 2017 price survey as well, and you can read through and see their methodology on that. I don't think you need to, but if you want to. And then we really are hoping that you will do some research in your area and, as Dawn said, call a center, find out what they're charging. Find somebody else in your area, another home. Take somebody, out to coffee and see if you can get some information about their pricing in a nice neighborly way. Go about it in whatever way feels natural for you. But information is going to be useful for you. Information is power. Knowledge is power, and it'll help you to make good business decisions going forward. There is a quiz 2 that'll be in session 2. And hopefully you didn't have any trouble with quiz 1. It's pretty comical. But quiz 2 will be a similar level of difficulty, just basically making sure that everybody is on track with the materials. So thank you.
But we're also wanting you guys to take a look at websites of other home providers if they have them, or Facebook pages, so that you can see how they're representing themselves, see what unique offerings they're, how are they setting up themselves in terms of the character of their business. Is it a place that you would want to bring your kids to? So we also are wanting, it's looking at their pricing, but also what's the whole package of how they're showing up in the marketplace as a business, because you can learn a lot from that. I love their website. I love their colors. I love I love how they're showing their programs and their potty training, et cetera, whatever. So just view this as an opportunity to be a Sherlock Holmes, go out there, check out, be curious, and have some fun with this too, because this is ways that you can begin to feel more inspired, more reinvigorated. These are hard times, and energy is waxing and waning for families and those in the trenches doing the really hard work of taking care of our kids. So know that you guys are on
have each other. You have each other too, right? And you have the course website where you can go and you can chat in the boxes there and have some conversations about, this is what works for me, or here's my challenge, and I'm really struggling with getting families. Does anyone have any ideas? I mean, you can use that as a resource and a tool for yourself to help your business too.
And we do have our Facebook page. So Hannah is, there if you want to join the community page. It's private. So it's a way of being able to talk to other students in this class, but also from the past class. There's a ton of resources and information there. So take advantage of that resource as well. So do you guys have any questions before we let you go and have your dinner? Najla?
I have one question. I was also wondering that the rate changes with the working hours. So if some providers have like longer working hours, maybe until 6:30, probably they're gonna charge more. Or like if providers work until 4, that they might have lower charges. Does it have something to do with that?
It can. Yeah, definitely it can. And so that's why when Angela says be an investigator, kind of check out all of the information, gather all the data, right? That's why you need to look at what services do they what services do they provide for the rate that they charge. So really getting a full picture of everything, because you
I
can't
gotta connect
compare
with
just based off of a rate, right? You have to really know, like, is it apples to apples? What, Mona?
You need inside out?
Okay.
Right here. Here.
I think she's talking to someone else.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
okay.
that's a great comment, really, is, you know, and then you get to decide, but you're in a data gathering mode. And notice if the rates include going to 6:30, or are they charging by the minute? Like, there'll be different policies. And again, our previous class, we had lots of long conversations and discussions. So that might be an area of investigation, is reaching out on the Facebook group and asking what folks charge or how they've changed their pricing structure as they've learned in their growth. So take advantage of those students who've been through this class and have lots of years of experience. Okay, any other questions? If not, we'll let you guys go, and just thank you so much for being here
Thank
tonight.
you. It is very helpful. I really like it. Thank you so much.
Thank
for all the
you.
useful
Night night.
information.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Angela, I have one more thing to discuss. I just don't know if in the coming meetings, are we gonna be discussing how to be able to pay your assistant and how to hire someone and all kinds of these issues? And also my other concern was because of the COVID, if I need to do the digital sign out thing, how am I going to be doing this, and more information about those kind of issues? Are we going to be addressing these things? Or it's
So we can, a lot of the providers don't have employees. So we can add that on to one of the sessions about taking on staff and the associated payroll costs. I think we'll probably do that in session 5 when Lauren, we have a CPA who's coming in and can talk about like what you would, like the taxes and all of the additional costs of and what that would do to your bottom line. But yeah, if you have specific issues that you want us to address in this class, we can pull the resources in and address them. So if that's important to you, we can certainly do that. What's the second thing that you said?
like digital signing and sign out.
So Dawn, I'm gonna let you and Sue field those kinds of questions, because I don't know if the what's the platform that you can get from Learning or something.
So your concern is like with germs and all of that, right?
Yes.
And so so the reality is they can use their own cell phones as long as they're at your house. Because there's a locator feature that they can't do it from home, but they can do it from your house. So they can log in on their phone and sign in and out on there. That's probably the easiest way. Or you can take like rubbing alcohol or a sanitizer, right? Sanitizing wipes, and wipe it down your computer if they use that, right? In between use.
Yeah, and I also need to know like the specific app that I should use on all kinds of those information. Because right now I'm doing like, I have like a separate binder for each child, and like parents just sign in like.
Okay, yeah, we're going to talk about some platforms and stuff that you can use that that you could be a part of that can help with some of those things. So I misunderstood what you were asking for. So, okay, yeah, we'll be getting to that for sure.
Bernice, what you got?
Okay, so the way I do it, I use ELV, Early Learning Ventures app. And on the nice days, which we have quite a few nice days out in Colorado, I put my TV stand out there. I put hand sanitizer and my tablet. Each time a parent uses my tablet, and really all they have to do is swipe it once, and then there's the what's it called, that little, it's a square thing that comes up where you scan it. And,
the QR code.
And yes, and they can check in. And each time I told the parents, stay in your car until the parent leaves, the parents don't come in the house. And so they stay at the bottom of the 2 steps going into my front door, and they let their child walk in. But each time they use my tablet, I wipe it down with, if I'm out of wipes, I use the microfiber and I spray with bleach solution, wipe it down each time. And then I tell them, once I'm done doing that and I wear my mask, then you can come up, check your child in. If it's a baby or a child that's having a hard time, I have to physically grab them from the parent. We both wear masks, and it's just a quick exchange. I hate to do it that way, but that's the way I'm doing it. I also got
I
a
like
fogger machine for every day. We use our bleach solution plus the fogger machine to go through the whole area of the house where the kids are. And that way everything's clean, lots of hand washing. Or as soon as they walk in the door, they wash their hands, and throughout the day.
Or if you don't want to wipe off your devices, you know what? Buy a little spray bottle of sanitizer for your parents and say, if you're signing in and you touch things, go back to your car and sanitize your hands real quick, right?
Right.
There's different ways to do it all. So you get to figure out what works for you.
So, and then the days that the weather's like it was raining one day a couple weeks ago, I did hand them the iPad, or I'll sign them in and then they have to okay it later on in the day when the weather's better.
Very smart, Brittany. No wonder you're a president.
I love you, Khadijah.
We worked together. We worked together 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes,
Bernice and I, yeah.
great friend.
Yeah, she's very smart.
Don, I have a question about the Hope Grant.
Okay. Oh,
Okay,
I'll do my best.
Yeah, no. I wanted to see, do you know the deadlines? I'm not familiar with that. So
The
where
Hope
can I?
Yeah, the Hope Grant already passed, so
Okay.
it's not available anymore.
Oh, okay. All right. Any other grants for home providers available still?
John, is the
You're in
link, did the
Erie?
Thornton-
Is that right? You're in Erie?
Yes.
Okay. That's Boulder County, right? Or is that Weld?
I'm involved.
It's Boulder?
No, it's
No, it's
Weld.
Weld.
It's Weld
Yeah.
County. I'd say just call Dawn there might be some
There
specific.
is one, yes, there is one, and it's due on the 14th. So Mona, you need to either call me at the health department during the day,
Okay.
and I can
Okay.
help. You have my number because you get my emails, right?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
So just call me and I'll help you with that.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right. And the magic is happening. Yes, I love it. Thank you guys so much. And everyone have a good evening. If there are not any other questions, we'll let you go.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.